champ now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean? What I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I was on a bum of my tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
When you on the tour.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, Al Booger, Donnie Williams, just do boxing. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cast Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, boxing in the States, Washington, D.C. How's the family today? Getting late in this big week of boxing history. Boxing in the States series continues today with Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is not a state, but it has a nice boxing history. Some other significant events like some nice gyms, and had some big fights over there, and some nice big name boxers came out of Washington, D.C., so being included in the Boxing in the States series today. Got a whole bunch of big names came out of D.C., like Lamont Roach, currently active, Maurice Blocker, Keith Holmes, Clarence Vincent, a whole bunch of them. Darrell Tyson, Melvin Foster. We're going to get into it today. Gary Russell. Yep. All from D.C. And it's going to be the Boxing in the State series today. But how's everyone this Thursday afternoon? Getting close to the weekend. More live boxing. But for the highlights of boxing history today, we are going to look at some of the most dominant stretches in boxing history. Like that Marvin Hagler stretch from 80 to 87, 12 consecutive title defenses, undisputed middleweight champion that entire time. Or Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes made 20, didn't he? 20 consecutive heavyweight title defenses. Here we're going to look at some of the most dominant stretches in history. Who can forget Finito, Ricardo Lopez, Mr. 51-0? He almost was champion for an entire decade like Joe Louis, but he vacated in 99 and moved up. Missed it by a few months. But that's the highlight of boxing history today. Some of the most dominant stretches in boxing history, okay? And all in a single weight class, too. Yep. So let's get into that. Start today's show off. The highlights of boxing history. The Hands of Stone. Who will forget that dominant run he had in the 70s? 54-1. Only lost once in the entire decade, okay? Lost to Esteban de Jesus, and he had a trilogy. He beat Esteban in the last two fights. But Esteban was the closest thing to having Roberto's number. He beat him the first fight and dropped Roberto in the second fight, which Roberto won, but Esteban dropped him. But that was a dominant run. That's what we're going to be talking about in the highlights of boxing history. Those type of dominant runs like the Hands of Stone had in the 70s, okay? So let's get into it. Ranking the most dominant stretches in a single weight class in boxing history. Yeah, all these runs were in one single weight class too, okay? So let's talk about it. Now, from 1937 to 1949, Joe Louis sat at the top of the heavyweight division like a bright star on a dark night. Baldus Marvin Hagler appeared completely untouchable when he ruled the middleweight division in the 1980s. Okay? Others had their dominance too. And this is what we're gonna get ready to talk about now. The fighters on this list are all among the best ever, right? And to forge the type of dominant reigns they did in the sport of boxing, they had to be among the best ever. Okay? Larry Holmes. Starting off with the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Now, if you were growing up as a boxing fan in the early 1980s, it felt like Larry Holmes had been the heavyweight champion forever. After capturing the title by split decision over Ken Norton in one of the great heavyweight title fights of all time in 1978, Holmes would successfully defend the belt 20 times and run his record to 48-0, one less than Rocky, 48-0, before finally losing to Michael Spinks in 1985. And a lot of people think he got robbed in that fight, and robbed worse in the rematch, okay? But he went to 48-0, 20 title defenses, and arguably, when they took it, he didn't lose it then, okay? Larry Holmes. Now, the Eastern Assassin would never again hold the title, but in the 1990s, He had one of the best runs of any fighter over 40 years old in boxing history. Okay? Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Finito, Ricardo Lopez, Mike Rem. Salute, Mike. We're talking about some of the most dominant runs in boxing history. Okay? Finito, Ricardo Lopez, Mr. 51-0. And Ricardo never lost in the pros and never lost in the amateur ranks either. Okay? Never lost at all in his entire boxing career, amateur or pro. One of the great things about boxing is that it is a weight class sport. Athletes of all sizes are able to compete on even terms, for the most part. Now we got those weight bullies now. Got to keep that in mind. But fighters at the very smallest weights still struggle to gain widespread recognition. Still, fighters like Ricardo Lopez managed to stand out no matter what. The accomplishments of Finito demand respect. One of the few champions of all time to retire undefeated, Lopez compiled a career record of 51 wins, no losses, 1 draw, and he did avenge that guy he had to draw if he beat him. Okay, but it was a split decision with Sendo Alvarez. And he had 38 knockouts. Now, Lopez was a nearly perfect technical fighter, defensively solid, and with finishing power. Lopez successfully defended the strawweight title 21 times before moving up and capturing the junior flyweight title at 108, okay? Ruled at 105, 21 successful title defenses, vacated that, went up and won 108. JCC. Wait a minute. Julio Cesar Chavez is supposed to be next. I went right past him. There's JCC. JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Widely considered the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, Julio Cesar Chavez ruled the junior welterweight division for most of the 1990s. Between 1989 and 1996, he held various alphabet soup versions of the title and was continuously rated near the top of the division. Chavez dropped the belt briefly in 1994 when he received the first loss of his career by split decision to Frankie Randall. He won the belt back in an immediate rematch. Okay? Chavez benefited from one of the worst decisions ever when he was handed a draw against Pernell Whitaker in 1993. But that was in a challenge for Whitaker's welterweight title. Chavez also won by controversial last-second stoppage in a fight he was losing against Meldrick Taylor in 1990. Richard Steele was widely criticized for that stoppage over the years, but it's undeniable that Chavez had inflicted tremendous damage on Taylor throughout the fight. Although Taylor made it back to his feet before the 10 count, he was still leaning on all his weight on the ropes and looked completely out of it when Steele waved off the fight. Meldrick didn't respond, so. Now, in no way was he responding like a fighter who was ready to continue trading punches. So, you got to give Richard the benefit of the doubt right there. It took me a long time, but I finally came around to it. Al Booger. Yeah, I finally came around. Meldrick was not responding. It took me like 15 times to watch it. But Meldrick was leaning on the ropes and he was not responding. So Richard Steele, just 2 seconds left, but he stopped it. So it is what it is. But that will always be debated forever. Okay, we talked about some of the dominant reigns in boxing history. The Klitschko brothers, Vitaly and Vladimir. Now, they reigned as co-champions for most of the 2000s, with each brother holding a share of the heavyweight title. Okay? Now, some might argue that they deserve a higher ranking. And it's true that their dominance has been close to total. They even scarcely lost rounds during their reigns as champions. Not just fights, they scarcely lost rounds. But when evaluating the absolutely most dominant champions, some consideration must be paid to quality of opposition, okay? And the heavyweight division during their reign was historically weak, okay? So that hurts them there. But still, dominant reigns by the Klitschko brothers, okay? But they did reign during a pretty weak era in the heavyweight division. B-Hop, Bernard Hopkins. At the remarkable age of 49, Bernard Hopkins was the reigning IBF and WBA light heavyweight champion, right? And he was still facing dangerous fighters like WBO champion Sergey Kovalev in unification fights. He was 49 years old. Hopkins' accomplishments at that age are more amazing than any by any other professional athlete in any sport. But he had established himself as a Hall of Famer more than a decade before that, okay? On the strength of his dominant run through the middleweight division. In 1995, B-Hop captured the vacant IBF title, middleweight. It was the start of a decade-long reign. In 2001, he beat Puerto Rican legend Felix Trinidad by TKO to add the WBC and WBA belts to his collection. Then in 2004, he knocked out Oscar De La Hoya to win the WBO belt, which made him the first undisputed middleweight champion since Marvin Hagler and the first undisputed champion in the four-belt era, Bernard Hopkins. And he was going on 40 then, wasn't he? Wilfredo Benitez. We talked about some of the most dominant runs ever in the sport of boxing. Wilfredo Benitez. What he did back in the decade of the 80s. Okay, Wilfredo Benitez. Now, with all due respect to Miguel Cotto, Wilfredo Benitez and Felix Trinidad are the greatest Puerto Rican boxing champions of all time, right? I mean, Wilfredo Gomez. This is Wilfredo Gomez. I'm sorry. I said Benitez. I meant Gomez. Wilfredo Gomez, yeah. And he is one of the sport's all-time most destructive pound-for-pound punchers. Now, Gomez captured the 122-pound title in 1977, and he held it until he vacated it in 1983, 6 years later. He defended that title 17 times, and guess what? Won all 17 by knockout. Talk about dominance. Won all 17 by knockout. During that stretch, his only loss came when he moved up to featherweight to challenge the legendary Salvador Sanchez in one of the classic Puerto Rico versus Mexico ring battles of all time. Sanchez turned Gomez back, stopped him, I think it was 8 rounds, but he went up out of his weight class. But he did go back down and continue defending his 122-pound title. Nevertheless, Gomez would go on to win titles at both featherweight and super featherweight later in his career to become a 3-division champ, but he would never come close to duplicating his phenomenal record at 122. Yeah, 122, that's where he did his work at. Next is talking about dominant runs, the hands of stone, Mr. Roberto Duran. Mr. Roberto Duran. Okay? Now, before he participated in some of the biggest fights of the 1980s as a 4 king at welterweight, junior middleweight, and middleweight, Roberto Duran had already punched his ticket to the Hall of Fame during the 1970s, when he dominated the lightweight division and established himself as arguably the greatest 135-pound fighter to ever live. Duran lost just once during an entire decade when he came in poorly trained to face the great Esteban de Jesus. And Esteban not even in the Hall of Fame. There was a loss that Roberto avenged twice by stoppage. Esteban did drop him in the second fight, but Roberto eventually stopped him. Duran captured the WBA belt from Ken Buchanan in 1972 and held it until vacating it in 1979 in order to pursue his epic showdown with Sugar Ray Leonard. In his last fight prior to vacating the WBA lightweight belt, he unified with the WBC strap when he stopped De Jesus for the second time. Now, a biopic of Duran's life came out in 2015, starring Robert De Niro as Duran's trainer, Ray Arcel. Yep, great movie. Okay, a couple more. The great Benny Leonard. This is, if anybody got a claim to greatest lightweight other than Duran, it's this man right here, Benny Leonard. BVO Sports TV from the Sports Talk Network. Salute, BVO. We talk about some of the greatest reigns, dominant reigns ever, BVO. And I know you remember that run the Hands of Stone had in the 70s. That might be the most dominant. Arguably the greatest lightweight ever. Only reason I say arguably because this man right here, Benny Leonard. Benny is the only one that could possibly edge him out. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, T Hill? How you doing today? Where you been at, man? I know you've been busy. But salute, T Hill. Good to see you. Yeah, Benny Leonard is the only one that would have other person to have a claim as the greatest lightweight ever, other than Roberto Duran. Maybe. Now, although a half century separated Roberto Duran and Benny Leonard, they shared a trainer in Ray Arcel. Ray Arcel was just amazing. He trained Benny Leonard to championships in the 20s, and he trained Roberto Duran in the 70s. And every decade between 1920 and 1970, Ray Arcel trained at least one world champion all of those years. So I don't think we can call anybody else the greatest trainer ever other than Ray Arcel, right? And he trained Roberto Duran and Benny Leonard. And Benny Leonard and Duran also shared the distinction of being the only two serious candidates for the greatest lightweight of all time, right? Yeah, I would put Duran slightly ahead, okay? But Leonard did fight at a time when there was only one world champion in each weight class, right? And while nobody seriously doubted that Duran was the dominant lightweight in the world during the 1970s, other fighters staked the claim to the title of world champion because they had other titles. Now, born on New York's Lower East Side at the turn of the 20th century, Leonard was nicknamed the Ghetto Wizard for his unmatched technical skill in the ring. He captured the world title in 1917 at age 21 and held the belt until his retirement 7 years later. During this stretch, Leonard lost just once by disqualification to welterweight champion Jack Britton for hitting Britton after he had knocked him down. Like so many Americans, Leonard's financial security was badly damaged by the stock market crash of 1929, and he came out of retirement at age 35. And at that time, Leonard was just a shadow of himself in his second career. So he reeled off a 19-0-1 record before being battered by Jimmy McLaurin and going down by round 6 TKO in the final fight of his career. Okay? Only a shell of himself, but still only lost once. A shell of himself was better than everybody else, except for that one guy, Jimmy McLaurin. Talking about dominant runs, the marvelous one in the 80s. The marvelous one. Yeah, Henry Armstrong got a case, Beville. 100%. 100%. Gotta mention Henry. Yeah, Henry was a great lightweight champion too. Good point, Beville. Gotta mention Henry. Yeah, he's in there. Top 5. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Now, Marvin Hagler reigned as the undisputed middleweight champion from 1980 to 1987. Now, his reign would have been longer had he not been the most avoided fighter in the sport in the late 1970s. And it would have been longer if he hadn't got robbed against Sugar Ray Leonard, too, in 1987. Right, BBO? Now, Hagler received his first title shot against Vito Antuofermo in 1979, but came away with only a draw. It was one of the worst decisions of the entire decade. So when Hagler got a second shot against Alan Minter in 1980, in Minter's home country of England, the marvelous one took no chances, knocking Minter out in 3 rounds, right? And that sparked a riot. They was mad at Hagler and Minter for getting knocked out. After 50 fights, he was finally the world champion. Took him 50 fights, right? And proceeded to become arguably the biggest boxing star of the decade. Hagler successfully defended the title 12 times, winning each one by knockout, except for a unanimous decision against guess who? The Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. His 1985 round 3 TKO of Thomas Hearns was the most exciting fight of the past 3 decades, okay? Hagler dropped the title by a controversial split decision to Sugar Ray Leonard in 1987. It's a fight that is still hotly debated to this day. The only fight Hagler lost without controversy was to the crafty Willie the Worm Monroe early in his career. It was a loss he avenged twice by stoppage. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And finally, the most dominant reign in boxing history. The most dominant reign in boxing history. The Brown Bomber. The Brown Bomber. Joe Louis Burrell. Joe Louis reigned as a heavyweight champion for a generation. A generation, okay? He held the belt for 12 straight years during one of the most turbulent periods in U.S. history. People had entire families while he was champion, 7 or 8 children. You know, people had entire families. Children started elementary school and graduated from high school. Joe Louis was champion the entire time. Let's put it in perspective. Figure when you started kindergarten and then when you graduated high school, Joe Louis would have been champion that entire time. That puts it in perspective. That's dominance, okay? Joe Louis' era stretched from the Great Depression through the hard years of World War II and into the post-war boom. During one of the nation's hardest eras, Louis was a symbol of stability and national pride. Louis's reign is sometimes denigrated for the quality of opposition he faced. Now, while Louis did beat some below average contenders during his long run at the top, he also beat 6 former or future world heavyweight champions, okay? 6 former or future world heavyweight champions. Other contenders of the era seemed smaller for having to stand in the great Brown Bomber's shadow. Most dominant reign in boxing history, the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Okay? So now let's talk about Washington, D.C. Boxing in the States, Washington, D.C. It's not a state, but it's got a good boxing history and got some big names that came out of there, too. We're going to talk about them. Some huge names came out of Washington, D.C. Lamont Roach, the one that just gave Tank that draw he just had from D.C. We're going to cover him. Okay. But how's everybody today? Man, Thursday came fast this week, didn't it? Wow. I woke up this morning, I thought it was Tuesday. Man. I was like, what am I going to do today? Then I said, oh, this is boxing in the States. It's Thursday. Or boxing in the district. D.C. had put in for statehood. I don't know what the status of it is, but they did a few years back. They applied to become a state, but still didn't go through yet. So make it a state. It's bigger than some states. Bigger than Delaware, I think. Ain't it, Al Booker? I think. Almost bigger than Maryland, the next door neighbor. And we got some fights that happened in D.C. too. Some big fights. All the way back to Joe Louis and Max Baer, all the way up to Tank and Hector Garcia. Right? All kinds of good fights coming up. I think I might need that light over there. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to turn this other light on. Okay. 1 second. Thomas Hill is back in the building. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, Washington, D.C. Okay. All right. Now, Washington, D.C. has a rich and diverse history within boxing, hosting major fights and producing numerous talented fighters over the years. The city has seen a rise and fall in its boxing prominence, but it remains a significant area for the sport, with a legacy of homegrown talent and memorable events. Now, the early days and the golden years. Early promotions. Frankie Mann, a promoter, was a key figure in the early days of boxing in Washington, D.C., promoting fights at various venues like the Ardmore Club and Partners Arena, major events. D.C. has hosted numerous championship fights, including Bernard Hopkins' unification fight at the D.C. Armory and Mike Tyson's final fight at the MCI Center when he lost to Kevin McBride, remember? Yeah, Mike's final fight was over there. Local talent. Now, the city has produced a number of boxing stars, including Sugar Ray Leonard, came close to D.C., who grew up in nearby Maryland, Palmer Park, Maryland. Mark Too Sharp Johnson, Keith Holmes, Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe was born in New York, but he lived in Fort Washington, Maryland, close to D.C. Okay. Recent developments. Now, the 1990s and 2000s. The 1990s saw a surge in talent like Keith Holmes, Mark Too Sharp Johnson, and Shamba Mitchell. Now, the 2000s saw a decline in D.C. boxing with fewer prominent local fighters. Now, the modern era. Despite the decline, D.C. has seen a resurgence in boxing, with the city hosting fight cards and developing new talent. Local gyms and training. Old school boxing, a gym in the Rosecroft Raceway complex, exemplifies a dedication and community that continues to support boxing in the D.C. era. Okay? Now we're going to talk about old school boxing. Okay? Old school boxing. get my talent from over here. Old school boxing. I keep having to leave. This tablet runs down real fast. I got to keep that on the charger until I get ready for it. I need a staff, man. Man. I need a staff. So I could have sent one of my staff to go get this tablet off the charger and another one to go turn that light off over there. Okay. Yeah, old school boxing. Let's talk about that. You'll find out about it in a minute. Old school boxing. Yeah, Washington, D.C. Tomorrow is going to be, of course, the profile is Marco Antonio Barrera this week. Okay? The last of the 2000s four kings. We did Pacquiao, Ron Manuel Marquez and Eric Morales. And Monday, we're going to do a show about their fights like we did the original four kings this Monday. We're going to talk about the four kings of the 2000s. They had 13 fights, remember? The only combination was Morales and Marquez that didn't fight. So Monday, we're going to talk about not all 13, because that would be too time consuming, but some of the biggest fights between those four. Now, those are the real four kings. They was talking about Tank and Ryan and David and Tio. No, they don't even fight each other. Only 2 fights out of the whole combination of the 4. Morales, Pacquiao, Marquez, and Barrera had 13 fights between them. Like I told you, it's only one that didn't happen. Morales and Marquez. So those are 4 kings because they fight each other, right? Okay, let's get this going. What is old school boxing? Okay. What we got going on? We're going to get some link time to talk about what we got going on this weekend too later on in the show. Thomas Hill is back. Thomas Hill runs the link at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. I don't know when to stop it. It'd be going so good. I can't. I refuse to shut the show down. Thomas Hill got to say, Cass, it's time to shut it down. Left up to me, we'll be going till like 12 o'clock tonight. So I'm glad Thomas Hill is back in here today. Okay. Yeah, old school boxing. Here we go. Hope this tablet don't die. I got 100, but this thing goes down so fast, man. Wow. You can see it moving. There we go. Anybody coming? Nope. Let me refresh the chat because I'd be missing people coming in and everything. Donnie Bennett here. Donnie Williams was here when I beat me in here today. I hope I can find what I'm looking for, man. I'm going to have to bear with me for a minute. I got to go out and come back in. I didn't do something right. Bear with me for a minute. See. That's what I've been putting in. You're going to get it. Just listen to the music for a moment. Oh, we might have to go to the fights. This was a pretty interesting piece here, though. Oh my goodness, man. I can't get it. This is crazy. For some reason, it's not working out. We might have to go to the fights. Try it one more time. One more time. Like Jay Hardcore would say, one more again. Okay, there we go. Go. Nope. Oh, there it is. I got it. Okay, sorry about the delay, but here we go. Now, this better be good. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, by the time Buddy Harrison was 14 in 1976, he'd already been in and out of reform schools. He would hang out with older guys, ex-cons mostly, pitching quarters outside a pizza joint in Southeast Washington, D.C. In between tosses, he'd hear them boast about their time in prison. He says, I literally felt like a lesser person because I'd never been to prison. By the age of 19, his turn would come. A long sentence for armed robbery. He said, I told myself, I made it. Right? He was around these older guys talking about prison so much, he felt bad because he never went. And then when he finally got charged with armed robbery and got sentenced, he felt that he had made it, right? Now, paroled after almost 10 years inside, he returned to the streets and began selling crack cocaine, making him one of the few white dealers on the southeast side of the city, okay? Now, his story could have ended there, but Harrison had a singular passion. He liked to box. Harrison had been fighting since he was a kid, and inside prison, the ring had been a common ground. Now, when his son Dusty was born in 1994, Harrison ended his criminal career and dedicated himself to making the boy a champion, right? So that was the best thing happened to him. He straightened his, when he had his son, he straightened his life out, okay? That'll do it, or a good woman. Now, he built a gym. It was just a heavy bag and a makeshift ring in the basement of the Naylor Gardens apartments where he lived at, right? And he started kids from a nearby elementary school to be Dusty's sparring partners, after, of course, getting permission from their parents, right? For all of Harrison's devotion to Dusty, though his life still looked bleak, right? One night he says, I dropped to my knees. I'm by myself in the apartment. I have no idea the exact reasons. And I begged and I cried like a baby. And I said, Jesus, come into my life. After that, for Harrison, the gym became not just about Dusty, but also about the other kids. They all were from tough neighborhoods, and boxing kept them off the streets. They learned discipline, self-confidence, even humility. Harrison bought them pizza and took them to boxing tournaments. Sometimes they'd win, sometimes they wouldn't. But Harrison says they all were winners. And by the time his son Dusty turned 8, Harrison concluded that he needed a better place to train in, right? So in time, he settled on a cramped cipher block building inside the Rosecroft Raceway Complex, just beyond the Beltway, in the city's southern suburbs. Now, the gym he started there lives up to its name. It's called Old School Boxing. In a time of sparkling, spacious fitness centers with cable machines and group cycling rooms, Old School is Spartan in its simplicity. Free weights, 10 heavy bags, 2 speed bags, a dip bar, and 4 treadmills. Now, a ring takes up most of the inside of the room. Now, the smells of liniment and sweat mixed with the leathery smell of bags and gloves. Okay? Now the gym's regulars are Black, white, and Latino. A few are professional fighters, like Harrison's son, who went on to become a welterweight champion, right? And the rest fight on the amateur circuit or simply train for fitness. Inner city and suburban teens travel up to 2 hours to get there, alone or with parents. Muscled young men share the ring with hard-hitting women. A 75-year-old former government lawyer stops by once a week to keep trim. A PhD candidate volunteers as a coach. In 2014, during the tense aftermath of the police shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Harrison decided the young fighters at the gym needed to get to know police officers and vice versa. So he began offering free memberships to police officers in DC and Prince George's County. Okay? Now officers often train with ex-cons and troubled youth at Old School Gym. Yeah, now they got a lot of policemen come there. For Harrison, this is not a money-making operation. Many of the inner city teens pay a reduced membership fee or no fee at all. And though the Rose Cross Raceway doesn't charge to rent the space, the costs of maintaining the gym, gloves, ring, equipment, fall to Harrison. He had patrons along the way, but when he needed to install a bathroom and shower, he sold his car to finance it. An unmistakable figure with his flat-top haircut and sleeveless muscle shirt, Harrison doesn't hide his past, right? A giant banner on the wall features his Prince George's County mugshot alongside a recent picture of him showing his head in prayer. And a quote from motivational speaker Zig Ziglar: "Every choice you make has an end result. Every choice you make has an end result." Now, Harrison's generosity is known beyond the gym. On weekends, he can often be seen distributing clothes to homeless men and women in downtown DC. It never fails, he says. If you be kind and treat people right, it will come back to you. Old School Gym. I thought that was a pretty interesting story. That's a significant place over there in DC. The Old School Gym. Now let's talk about some of these fights. Some fights that's happened in DC over the years, okay? Starting from Joe Louis and Max Baer in the 40s, all the way up to Tank and Hector Garcia. When was that, 2023? Yeah. Let's talk about some of these fights. It's happened over the years in Washington, D.C. And then we're going to get to some fighters from D.C. Okay? Man, those words were small on there. I was struggling. Okay. Here we're now going to talk about some fights that went down over there in D.C., okay? Yeah, that's the first one, Joe Louis. Now, plenty of top quality pugilists have hailed from the region over the years, from Hall of Famers Sugar Ray Leonard, Mark Too Sharp Johnson, and Riddick Bowe, to erstwhile middleweight contenders Keith Holmes and William Joppy, to the Gary Russell brothers. But despite being an enthusiastic fight town, the nation's capital and environs have fewer big fights to their credit than one might expect. So here's a selection of some of the more notable fights over the years. Okay, first one, May 23rd, 1941, Joe Louis versus Buddy Baer. Joe Louis versus Buddy Baer, 1941. This was at Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C., the old Griffith Stadium. Now, the first World Heavyweight Championship fight to be held in D.C. seemed on the verge of being canceled as a result of rain, prompting referee Arthur Donovan to go to a bar and get drunk. Now, Donovan had to sober up rapidly when the rain cleared and the fight went ahead. Now, the fight itself got off to a dramatic start when Baer knocked Louis through the ropes in the first round. But Louis, however, recovered to drop Baer heavily twice at the end of round 6, and then once more after the bell rang to end the round. Now, Baer's handlers entered the ring, demanding that Louis be disqualified. And when they wouldn't leave the ring, the referee Arthur Donovan disqualified Baer instead. So Joe Louis won by 7th round disqualification. April 30th, 1976. Muhammad Ali versus Jimmy Young. These are some fights that occurred over in Washington, D.C. over the years. Muhammad Ali versus Jimmy Young. This was at the Capitol Center, Landover, Maryland. This is where me and Miss Cass had our first date. It was at it was a Brick concert. It had Brick, Slave, some of the R&B groups from back in the day. Y'all probably don't know nothing about them. Thomas, I don't know nothing about them. But yeah, it was our first date was at the Capitol Center, 1981. This fight was April 30th, 1976. Capitol Center, Landover, Maryland. Muhammad Ali versus Jimmy Young. Now, an overweight and underprepared Ali struggled with the boxing skills and movement of Young, who outlanded him in jabs, power punches, and connect percentage. Ali landed just 113 punches, his lowest total ever in a 15-round fight. But the judges penalized Young for the habit of ducking his head outside the ropes whenever Ali had him pinned. And on one occasion, the move was called as a knockdown. Now, Ali won a wide, unanimous decision, much to the crowd's dissatisfaction. But this fight is generally recognized as the beginning of Ali's long decline. Ali won by a 15-round unanimous decision. March 31st, 1980. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Dave Boy Green. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Dave Boy Green. Back at the Capitol Center, Landover, Maryland. Local fighter Sugar Ray Leonard was at his vicious best in this WBC welterweight defense, sandwiched between a win over Wilfred Benitez and the first fight with Roberto Duran. This fight was right in between them. When he won the belt from Benitez and when he lost it to Duran, this fight was right in between those two. Now, after peppering the outmatched Green over the first 3 rounds, Leonard stepped it up a notch in the 4th round before knocking the Brit out cold with a devastating left hook. Sugar Ray Leonard wins by a 4th round knockout. May 22nd, 1993. Riddick Bowe versus Jesse Ferguson. And on the same card, Roy Jones versus Bernard Hopkins, RFK Stadium, Washington, D.C., at the old RFK Stadium. The main event saw the New York City-born DMV residing Riddick Bowe blow away Ferguson inside 2 rounds. Of greater significance, however, was the co-main event in which Roy Jones won the IBF middleweight title. That was his first title belt for Roy Jones by defeating Bernard Hopkins. Now the fight was forgettable, but it launched a rivalry that lasted for 20 years. Yep. Riddick Bowe, second round knockout over Jesse Ferguson. Roy Jones, 12th round decision over Bernard Hopkins. April 29th, 1995. Bernard Hopkins versus Segundo Mercado. Also on the card was Vincent Petway of Baltimore, Maryland versus Simon Brown. U.S. Air Arena, Landover, Maryland. That's the Capitol Center. They had changed the name then. That's when they had started around the time they started using those corporate names. Remember, around the mid-90s, all the arenas and stadiums and stuff started using corporate names, get their corporate money. So the Capitol Center changed to the U.S. Air Arena. Now, Hopkins won a middleweight title on his 3rd attempt and on his 2nd against Mercado. While his first fight with the Ecuadorian in the altitude of Quito had resulted in a controversial draw, Hopkins left no doubt in the rematch, taking Mercado apart and stopping him in the 7th round to begin a lengthy reign. The highlight of the night, however, was Petway's knockout of Brown in the junior middleweight main event, which left Brown flat on his back and still throwing punches while unconscious. So Hopkins, 7th round knockout over Mercado, Petway, 6th round knockout over Brown. February 22nd, 1998. Okay, February 22nd. We're moving forward. February 22nd, 1998. Mark Too Sharp Johnson versus Arthur Johnson. Mark Too Sharp, local boy. Mark Too Sharp Johnson versus Arthur Johnson. Okay? Okay. This was at the D.C. Armory, Washington, D.C. Now, D.C.'s own Mark Too Sharp Johnson took a pay cut to defend his IBF flyweight title in his hometown rather than do so in Las Vegas or Atlantic City. And the future Hall of Famer proved worth every penny as he backed #1 contender Arthur Johnson to the ropes and flattened him with a right-left combination after just 71 seconds. Too Sharp won by first round knockout. Okay? Next was Mike Tyson's final fight. It was on June 11th, 2005. Kevin McBride versus Mike Tyson. Tyson's final outing at the MCI Center, Washington, D.C. That's where the Tank and Hector fight was at, I think. I think they had changed it to the Capital One Arena by then. Yeah. But it's MCI Center. That's where the Wizards used to play. I don't know if do they still play there? I'm not sure. But Mike Tyson era came to a final and humiliating end at the unlikely fist of big Irishman, Kevin McBride. 1 year removed from his shock loss to Danny Williams, Tyson won 5 of the 6 completed rounds on 2 judges' scorecards, or at least would have done were it not for a 2-point deduction in the 6th round for an intentional headbutt. Tyson was by this time growing frustrated by McBride's physicality and refusal to yield. And to the crowd's astonishment and fury, he stayed on his stool after the 6th round. Yep. Mike Tyson's final fight, 6th round knockout for Kevin McBride. Then on December 10th, 2011, Lamont Peterson versus Amir Khan. Lamont Peterson versus Amir Khan, 2011. Okay? This was at the Convention Center, Washington, D.C. I saw a Dwight Muhammad Quari fight there back in the 80s. I was sitting like 3 rows behind Sugar Ray Leonard and his wife. Yep. Sugar Ray was in attendance. I was up there with the big wigs, me and Miss Cass was then. Yeah. I was a high roller then, man. 3 rows behind Sugar Ray Leonard and his wife. I was in the expensive seats. Convention Center. Dwight Muhammad Quari was fighting somebody for the man. I forgot who he was even fighting. But yeah, Convention Center, Washington, D.C. Yup. He said some big fights there. Okay. Now, a raucous crowd roared on D.C.'s Peterson as he took a pair of 140-pound belts from Khan in highly controversial fashion. Now, Khan dropped Peterson in the first round and started strong before Peterson rallied. Now, even so, Khan appeared to have done more than enough to retain his belts. But 2 baffling point deductions from referee Joseph Cooper were enough to hand Peterson the win by 1 point on 2 cards. Peterson got the nod, 12-round decision. Yeah, Peterson got some home cooking that night. He most certainly did. Check it out. Yeah. Okay, next. Talking about some fights that's happened in Washington, D.C. over the years. April 8th, 2017, we had Vasily Lomachenko versus Jason Sosa and Alexander Usyk against Michael Hunter. This was at the MGI National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland. Right outside D.C., Oxon Hill, Maryland. A few minutes outside D.C. Now, neither fight is likely to feature in either man's top 3 wins, although each was impressive. Sosa was the second of 4 consecutive Lomachenko opponents to quit, while Usyk dropped Hunter in the 12th round to punctuate a comfortable decision win. But the card was notable for not only featuring 2 future Hall of Famers, and their compatriot Alexander Gvozdyk was also on the card, but also for being the first boxing event at the new MGM National Harbor. Wow, first event at this arena. And Lomachenko got a 9th round TKO over Sosa. Usyk, 12th round decision over Michael Hunter. March 24th, 2019. We're almost up to the present. March 24th, 2019 was Sergey Lipinets versus Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson again. Sergey Lipinets versus Lamont Peterson. Okay? This is back at the MGM National Harbor, Oxon Hill. Okay, so this might have been the second card. No, because the other one, the Loma card was in 2017. This was a couple years later, 2019. But anyway, now if Peterson's win over Khan was a career highlight, this may have been his lowest ebb as he came off second best in an absolutely brutal slugfest loss to Lucas Matisse. Wait a minute now. Yeah. He was coming off an absolutely brutal slugfest loss to Lucas Matisse. Danny Garcia and Earl Spence had dropped Peterson from the title picture. After ultimately yielding to Lipinets, he immediately announced his retirement, although he would return in 2023, only to retire again after losing his comeback fight. Okay, yeah, Lipinets got a 10th round TKO over Lamont. Yeah, Lamont was doing a whole lot of losing around that time. Okay, then we go to May 11th, 2019. That was Julian J. Rock Williams against Jared Hurd. Eagle Bank Arena, Fairfax, Virginia. All in the Washington area, Fairfax, Virginia. Now, Jared Hurd is from Maryland. 2 fights removed from his epic battle with Erislandy Lara to unify 3 junior middleweight titles. But his homecoming defense did not go according to plan as he suffered a second-round knockout and an upset loss, right? Neither man was convincing since that fight. Yeah, J-Rock had a 12-round decision overheard in that one. And the final one was January 7th, 2023. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Garcia. Mike Mazik in the building. What's up, Mike? We're just going over some fights that happened over there in the area. Not all of them were in DC, but happened in the area. Okay. One venue where me and Miss Cass had our first date, the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland. Now the U.S. I don't even know if it's open anymore, but they changed it to the U.S. Air Arena Center, U.S. Air Arena, but it was the Capitol Center back then in '81. But Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Garcia. Next, we're going to talk about the boxers from D.C., then some link time. Now, Hector had his moments against Tank, Baltimore, that monster from Baltimore, but it was Tank who was in control when referee Albert Brown paused proceedings in the 8th round with some encouragement from Davis in response to a brawl in the crowd, which had been kicked off by an altercation between rapper Meek Mill and DC's Gary Russell Jr. Remember that? Yeah. Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr. started a brawl out in the audience. At the end of that round, a huge Davis left hand had Garcia badly hurt, and the Dominican stayed on his stool at the beginning of the night. Remember, he said he couldn't see. It was Davis's biggest win against an opponent called, it was not Davis's biggest win against an opponent called Garcia in 2023, because remember, he fought Ryan in June of that year. But it was a sign of Davis's drawing power. The $5 million plus gate exceeded even what Tyson drew to the venue when he lost against Kevin McBride, remember? Almost 20 years earlier in 2005, in his final fight. Yeah, Tank outdrew Mike. So let's talk about some boxers from DC, okay? Some boxers from DC right now. I need the light. No, I don't need that. Okay. Boxers from DC. You know, we always do that before we end. Okay, boxers from DC. Okay. We're gonna get some link time too. That's good time going on here. Appreciate everybody in the building today. We got Mike Mazik, Thomas Hill, BBO Sports TV, Mike Rim, Donnie Williams, Just Do Boxing, Al Booger, and Miss Cass in the building today. Appreciate y'all 1,000%. Boxers from DC. Okay. First, gonna be the man we just seen take 2 L's in these fights we were talking about in DC. Lamont Roach. No, not Lamont Roach. Lamont Peterson is first. Lamont Peterson. Okay. Is that? No, that's not Lamont. I think I got a picture of Lamont. Yeah, there's Lamont. Lamont Peterson. Boxers from DC. Now, Lamont is a former pro boxer. He competed from 2004 to 2019. He held world championships in 2 weight classes, including the IBF junior welterweight title between 2011 and 2015, and the WBA welterweight title in 2017. And Lamont finished his career with 35 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 17 knockouts. Okay, Lamont Peterson. Next, Winky Wright. Winky Wright. Boxers from DC. There's Winky. Winky Wright. Ronald Lamont Winky Wright. Now, you know, that's a good nickname when you don't even know the man's first name. For the longest time, I didn't even know what Winky's first name was. And that's a nickname there, right? But anyway, Ronald Lamont Winky Wright. Now I know his first name and middle name, right? Retired American boxer. Winky competed from 1990 to 2012, 22-year career. He was a two-time junior middleweight world champion. Winky was the last to hold the undisputed title until 2022. That's when Jamel got it, remember? Jamel, the junior middleweight. Winky was known for his defensive skills and tricky style. He earned the nickname International Man of Misery. Wright had a successful amateur career with a 52-4 record before turning pro in 1990. Remember, Winky in that high guard could cover his head and his body. And Winky finished his career with 51 wins against 6 losses, 1 draw, 25 knockouts for Winky. Kenny Bazemore is next. Kenny Bazemore. Boxers from DC. Kenny Bazemore. Let's talk about Kenny briefly. Just a little brief thing. I'm not trying to bore y'all. Now, Kenny Bazemore was nicknamed the Technician, right? Bazemore won the 1979 National Golden Gloves bantamweight title. He turned pro in 1981. And after a successful career start, he was named the Ring Prospect of the Year in 1983. Kenny Bazemore. And Kenny finished his career at 28 wins, 13 losses, 2 draws, 24 knockouts, for a knockout ratio of 85.7%. Kenny Bazemore. Next is Lamont Roach. There's Lamont Roach. Got a date coming up with Tank. It's not in June anymore. Lamont Roach Jr. Somebody said August. But Lamont Roach Jr. Now, Lamont currently holds the WBA Super Featherweight Championship, 130, right? Okay. He won the title in 2023 by defeating Hector Garcia. And Lamont was a decorated amateur, winning gold medals at the 2013 National Golden Gloves and USA Boxing Youth National Championships. He fights out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Okay? And his record has a slight blemish from a split decision draw against Orlando Cruz in 2025. No, I mean Tank Davis. What am I talking about? Orlando Cruz. Tank Davis. I don't know where I got that from. Then Lamont is currently 25 wins, 1 loss. But he did have a draw with Orlando Cruz too, because he has 2 draws. And Lamont has, wait a minute now. I'm looking at the wrong person. Yeah. 25-1, 2 draws, 10 knockouts for Lamont Roach. Yeah. He did have a draw for Orlando Cruz. Was that this year? I'm not sure. I know he got 2 draws. Maurice Blocker is next. There's Maurice Blocker on the right there. Okay. Talking about some boxers from DC, Washington, DC. Segment where we just look at the names from the era of it, from the state that's we're highlighting on boxing in the states today, which is Washington, D.C. The Maurice Blocker competed from 1982 to 1995. He was the 2-time welterweight world champion, having held the WBC title from 1990 to 1991 and the IBF title from 1991 to 1992. He also challenged for the WBC Super welterweight title in 1993, Maurice Blocker. And Maurice finished his career with 36 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 20 knockouts. Maurice Blocker. Keith Holmes, boxer from DC. Keith Holmes. Keith Holmes. Yeah, Keith, you're supposed to come up when I say your name. Keith Holmes. Okay. Keith Holmes. Okay, yeah, that's Keith right there. Now, Keith began his career in 1989 and captured the WBC middleweight title by scoring a TKO over Quincy Taylor in 1996. Okay? He defended the title twice before losing it to Hasim Sharifi in 1998, a decision loss in which he dropped Sharifi once. In 1999, Holmes had landed a rematch with Sharifi and regained the title by a 7th round TKO. Holmes again defended the title twice before losing the belt to middleweight legend Bernard Hopkins in a clear-cut decision loss as part of the middleweight World Championship Series unification tournament. Yeah, that was B-Hop, Keith Holmes, Felix Trinidad, and William Jockey. B-Hop and Felix met in the final. B-Hop won the tournament, right? Now, Holmes continued to fight sparingly after losing to B-Hop, and in 2005 lost an IBF senior middleweight title eliminator fight against Roman Karmazin, a close majority decision loss, right? And Holmes is a vegan, Keith Holmes. And he finished his career at 41 wins, 5 losses. He had 25 knockouts. DeMarcus Corley. Yeah, DeMarcus is from DC. DeMarcus Corley. Okay? And there is DeMarcus Corley. He's from DC. Yep. And DeMarcus came right up. DeMarcus Dion Corley, right? A veteran of the sport for more than 2 decades. He held the WBO junior welterweight title from 2001 to 2003 and has fought as a gatekeeper against many of boxing's biggest names. DeMarcus Corley. 52 wins, 36 losses, 1 draw, 28 knockouts. Wow. He had 89 fights in his career. DeMarcus Corley. Clarence Vincent. Boxers from DC. Clarence Vincent. Clarence on the right. Clarence was nicknamed Untouchable. Like we were talking about the other day. I can't even think of his name now. Ant brought him up. From Argentina. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. But DeMarcus was also called. DeMarcus was also called the Untouchable, right? Clarence Vincent was also called the Untouchable. He won the bantamweight bronze medal at the 2000 Summer Olympics. Then in the semifinal fight, he was defeated by Cuba's eventual gold medalist, Guillermo Rigondeaux. So he lost to in the Olympics. Guillermo Rigondeaux. He came out of it with the bronze. And Clarence went 17-2 with 7 knockouts. Louis Curtis. It's Louis. Boxers from DC. Louis Curtis. The Louis Curtis competed in the men's light flyweight event at the 1976 Summer Olympics. He was on that fire team. He lost in the first round to Henryk Świdnicki of Poland. Okay? And Louis, 15 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 7 knockouts. Didn't have a long pro career. Okay? Alantez Fox. Boxers from DC. Alantez Fox. I hit the wrong thing. Alantaz Fox. That's Alantaz. Anybody come in? Nope. Alantaz Fox. Now, while beginning his pro career as a middleweight, Fox was closely compared to Paul Williams, due in large part to both fighters being extremely tall for their weight class. 28 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 1 no contest, 13 knockouts for Alantaz Fox. Daryl Tyson. Just talking about some boxers from DC. Daryl Tyson. Daryl is a former WBC Continental Americas lightweight champion and former USBA and NABF champion in the lightweight and junior welterweight divisions. He had minor titles. Daryl did. But he won 50 fights, lost 14, 1 draw, 24 knockouts. Dusty Hernandez Harrison. Dusty Hernandez Harrison. Boxers from DC. Is that Dusty? No. How did I go past Dusty? There's Dusty right there. I think. Yeah. Well, that's going to be Dusty. That's Dusty. Now, he's a Puerto Rican American boxer, former USBA and WBC Continental Americas welterweight champion. In October 2013, Dusty was praised by Mike Tyson in an open letter. Dusty Hernandez Harrison. 37 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 23 knockouts. Dusty. Shamba Mitchell. Shamba Mitchell. Got a lot of them from DC. Shamba Mitchell. Next week, I think, is Wisconsin. No, Vermont. No, Wisconsin. TUVW. We did Vermont. We only got 2 left. Wisconsin and Wyoming. Cass reminded me, or I was saying Wisconsin. She reminded me of Wyoming. Shamba David Mitchell, right? Competed from 1988 to 2006. He held the WBA junior welterweight title from 1998 to 2001. And the IBF interim junior welterweight title in 2004. Okay, winding down now. Shamba from Tacoma Park, Maryland, close to DC. 57 wins, 6 losses, 30 knockouts. Anthony Peterson, younger brother of Lamont. Okay. Oh boy. Younger brother of Lamont, Anthony Peterson. Wait a minute now. Okay, I don't know where I'm at. Is that Anthony Peterson? Anybody? I don't know. Anthony Peterson is next. I think that is Anthony. Anthony Peterson, Lamont's brother. I might not have a picture. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's Anthony. Okay, Anthony Peterson. Younger brother of Lamont Peterson. Anthony had 39 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 1 no contest, 25 knockouts. Okay, Melvin Foster. Winding down. It's got a couple more. Boxers from Washington, D.C. Melvin Foster. former heavyweight. Let me see something here. Melvin. I think that's Melvin. Now, he's best known for his amateur boxing career. He most notably defeated former world champion Mike Weaver and two-time title challenger Carl the Truth Williams. Two big names. Melvin won 24 fights, lost 13, 1 draw, 18 knockouts. Corey Sanders. Corey Sanders. Let's see. Yeah. Wait a minute now. Yeah, that's Corey, right? I was way off, man. Damn, I was like two people. That's Corey Sanders way up there. How did y'all let me get off like that? Yeah, that's Corey Sanders right there. Okay, we're winding down anyway. Now, Cornelius Johannes Sanders, right? He was a South African heavyweight boxer. He fought from 1989 to 2008. He had a 19-year career. He was a southpaw, known for his heavy punches. In 2003, Sanders won the WBO heavyweight title by knocking out Vladimir Klitschko in 2 rounds, right? An upset that the Ring magazine named Upset of the Year, right? He died in 2012 at age 46 after being shot during a family celebration. Wow. Corey won 23, lost 13, had 15 knockouts. Yeah, he knocked Vladimir out in 2 rounds. Yep. Now I'm back on track. Tony Tucker. Yeah, Tony Tucker. Yep, back on track. Crush the Legend. What's up, Crush? How you doing today? Crush the Legend. 6 o'clock a.m. Monday through Friday. Coffee and the donuts. And I'm trying to tell y'all, give out those fire updates on the Sean Combs trial, man. The best updates I've seen. Better than them lawyers. Because Crush know that hip-hop inside out. Them lawyers don't. That's what makes Crush so good. He know all the names and people names come up at the trial. Crush knows all of them inside out. So get your update 6 o'clock Monday through Friday from Crush the Legend and much other stuff. Some boxing, hip-hop, all kinds of stuff over there. Salute, Crush. We talking about some boxers from DC right now. Winding down. We're going to get some link time in a moment. This is Corey Sanders, right, from DC. Oh, I did Corey Sanders, didn't I? Yeah, this is Tony Thompson. All of them from DC. Yeah, we looked at DC today. Had some pretty good fights from up there. Now winding down on the boxers from DC. Tony Thompson. We're going to get to the link after Tony. Let's see. Yeah, Tony was wait a minute. I got the singer, Tony Thompson. That's telling me that's enough. There was a singer named Tony Thompson, too. But I want him, the boxer. Yeah. Here we go. Now, he competed from 2000 to 2016, 16 years. He challenged twice for the unified world heavyweight title in 2008 and 2012, both times against Vladimir Klitschko, right? Vladimir got him both times, but Tony was in two fights against Vladimir. 140, lost 7, 27 knockouts, okay? let's finish this off here. Okay, after Tony Thompson, we had Charles Mooney. Then we had Gary Russell. Gary Russell. We got to talk about Gary. Okay, yeah, I wanted to get, and we haven't did Mark Too Sharp yet, neither. Right? Gary Russell Jr. Okay, Gary Russell Jr. born June 5th, 1988. He's a former WBC featherweight champion. Gary is known for his speed and technical skills. He held the title from 2015 to 2022, 7-year run. As an amateur, Gary won bantamweight bronze medal at the 2005 World Championships, and he had a 163-10 record as an amateur. In 2011, the Ring Magazine, Sports Illustrated, and ESPN named Gary Prospect of the Year. Gary Russell Jr., okay? And now trains his brother, Gary Antoine, right? He trains his brother, who's a champion at 140. Okay, the Russells. All right. Then we had Floyd Favors. We're just going to run through them. After Floyd Favors, William Joppy from D.C. Yep, there's William. But the referee got his hand on him. There's Too Sharp. Let's talk about Too Sharp. Mark Too Sharp Johnson. We got to touch on Too Sharp. There's T. Hill's boy there, Too Sharp. T. Hill would be mad at me if I don't touch on Too Sharp. Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Fought down in the lower weight class. He don't get his props. Nobody that fought down there get their props. Anything under like 118 on down. Monster that made 122 visible. Like before Monster, people didn't even fool with 122. That Monster and Cool Boy, you know. Yeah. But Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Okay. Now, he competed from 1990 to 2006. He's a 3-time world champion in 2 different weight classes. He had the IBF flyweight title from 1996 to 99, IBF junior bantamweight title from 99 to 2000, and the WBO junior bantamweight title from 2003 to 2004. 3-time champion in 2 different weight classes. Mark Too Sharp Johnson. All right, yeah, Mark, he didn't reach the heights, his full potential because of the lower weight classes, and he didn't get in there against a lot of the big names. He didn't fight Mr. 51-0 Ricardo Lopez, Humberto Gonzalez, Michael Carbajal. It was somebody else, big name he didn't fight. Not no fault of his, fault of theirs. I had it written down. Rosendo Alvarez. He didn't fight Rosendo Alvarez neither. That's the man that gave Ricardo Alvarez his only blemish on his record, which was a draw. Yeah, none of them got in there with Too Sharp, right? That kind of hurt him a little. We had Duval Williamson and Holly Mims, and that's it. For the boxers from D.C. There you have it. Boxing in the States, Washington, D.C. today. Okay? We'll get a little link time in. There. How's everybody today, though? Man, I can't believe it's Thursday. I don't know how we got, what happened to, I remember Monday. I don't even remember Tuesday and Wednesday. Damn. We went straight from Monday to Thursday. Gee, Christmas. It's crazy. How this time is going by. But I appreciate everybody for stopping through today. You know, this is for hardcore fans only. We get down into the weeds of boxing over here, man. History. Anything you love like we love boxing, it only makes it better if you know the history. You know? The origins of anything you love. Like we love boxing. You know? I've been following boxing since the late 70s. I'm telling my age. But yeah, I came in around, around the Four Kings time, just before the Four Kings, around in there. Roberto Duran is my favorite boxer. I was bragging so much when Roberto beat Sugar Ray that first time. I was telling everybody, Roberto gonna stop Sugar Ray the second time. Man, I went to school, they was calling me No Mas. Roberto had them calling me No Mas, man. I bragged so much. Yeah. That's my nickname for a while, No Mas. I don't know what hurt more, No Mas or when Hearns got him up out of there, man. That Hearns one was bad. Roberto was sleeping on the way down to the mat, man. Wow, I didn't cry though. Felt like it. See the hands of stone go down like that, man. That ain't supposed to happen. Oh, but he made a good comeback. Became one of the legendary Four Kings. Champion again. Because when he did that No Mas, his brand took a big hit. In the United States and Panama, his home country, they pulled all Roberto Duran commercials off the air. All the endorsements, everybody ran from Roberto. But he made it back. He made it all the way back, man. All the way. His manager threw him under the bus. When he said he had stomach cramps, the man, he didn't have no stomach cramps. He always eat like that. The man could have at least lied for him. He's supposed to say, yeah, we was getting ready to cancel the fight. He was hurting so bad this morning. He threw him under the bus, drove over top of him, back over top of him, then drove over him again. His own manager, Carlos Elita, man. Threw him straight under the bus. He said Roberto didn't have no stomach cramps. He quit because he was embarrassed. Your manager's supposed to, tell a little lie for you. But man. But he made a good comeback. The hands of stone. The greatest lightweight ever. Except for maybe Benny Leonard. Between them two. I can't call it. I ain't mad at you. Whichever one you pick. Roberto Duran or Benny Leonard. And them two they had the same trainer. For 50 years apart, had the same trainer. The amazing Ray Arcel. Ain't that crazy? These two men fought 50 years apart and had the same damn trainer, man. And Ray Arcel trained the champion in every decade from 1920 to 1980. Okay? He left Roberto after the No Mas fight too, but he came back because Roberto was his money. Ray said, I couldn't be associated with that, but he came back. He wasn't making the same money when he left Roberto. Because all those Four Kings fights were big money fights. All of them. For that time period that they happened in. Throughout the 80s. We did a deep dive on them Monday. Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran started the series, and Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran ended the series. 9 fights altogether. Sugar Ray was in the most 6 of them. Duran was in 5. Hearn was in 4. Hagler was the only one that never had a rematch. Never had a Four Kings rematch. He wanted to rematch Sugar Ray, but Sugar Ray ducked him. Y'all know the story. Hagler stayed around 14 months. And Sugar Ray, nah, man, I'm retired. Hagler retired, and Sugar Ray comes back 1 month later. Didn't even wait. 1 month. He was back in there. Wasn't that a duck deal? 1 month. Sugar Ray came back.
Hey, man, I have a hard time saying duck, but I believe that definitely applied there because, like you said, when he retired, immediately came back in there. But when there was talks of the rematch, he said he was done. His fighting career was over.
Sugar Ray said the coach is fair. I can come back now.
That definitely, to me, sounds like he didn't want that.
He didn't want to get back in that ring. He didn't.
Now, the one that I didn't like that never happened to transpire was the Hearns Hagler one. That was supposed to be a rematch too, but it never transpired either. Because
they didn't have to get back either. I don't know why they didn't have a rematch. They had plenty of time to have a rematch, Hearns and Hagler.
Yeah, they it just didn't. For some reason, I forgot what happened. I forgot. I was trying to get in contact with Tommy through my good brother Daryl McKinney because that's his brother-in-law. But
He knows some of his people, right?
you know, he been away. He lost his mom, and him and his brothers doing their bucket list because you know they want to make sure they do everything that they set out to do because they lost their mom and they don't want to lose any more time when they got it too. So they out there living their best life. But whenever he gets back, he said he was gonna line it up. I wanted because I specifically asked him in the fight why he didn't box him.
I know.
And
he tried, but Hagler wouldn't let him to you.
Well. He said there was two things that happened. First, there was an injury that nobody knew about with his hand. His hand was messed up. His shoulder was messed up, and then on top of that, he was sick. But they said the thing that would allow for him, he was tired as hell because he said the day before the fight, Emmanuel Stewart had him up at the beach running sprints in the sand.
And he got a massage or something on his leg. That made his legs tire out fast too. Remember?
He said that's what they told him, but the real thing was the fact that he was at the beach.
Running.
He was at the beach and running in the sand the day before the fight. So he said his legs were just gone. He said he couldn't do anything. So he decided, hey, my best bet is to try to nail him with a punch. Get him up out of here because man, I ain't gonna have the stamina to endure it.
And you know Hearn's mentality when Hagler wanted to brawl, Hearn's gonna oblige him. You had that mentality, man. You know.
Well, yeah, and he also had a hell of a punch. So it just took one punch. Unfortunately, his hand was compromised, so he couldn't really hit him with everything he really wanted to. And you know, you gotta hit Hagler with something.
Yeah.
If you don't hit him with something, then you're gonna be in trouble. So it was a good fight while it lasted, but they just never got that rematch done. I wanted to see that rematch.
I know that would have been.
But whenever I can get in contact with him, and I'll show would love to find out like why that never transpired.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Because it was a great fight. It was a great fight. And you know, both great fighters. I mean, only fight I ever seen do Duran dirty was Hearns. Hearns did him extremely filthy. Extremely filthy. And I mean, like, it wasn't a bad Hearns. This wasn't a fat camp extraordinaire Hearns. This was a Hearns that just Duran. This was a Duran that was walking through everything.
Yes.
And he came into a wall that day.
He just had too much. He was just at too much of a size disadvantage against Hearns. Hearns had like 8 inches of reach, and somebody know how to use that, man. You know.
Yeah,
his right hand he had.
Yeah, he played to his strengths like a champ.
Yeah. And Duran had to get inside. No way he gonna beat Hearns from the outside, you know. No way. So that was just a bad matchup, man, for him there.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Unfortunately, you know, another fight that, like you said, we didn't get a rematch to. But I don't think Duran really wanted a rematch. I think Duran fully understood that it was futility.
It would be the same thing 10 times against Hearns. 10 times. Same thing.
And a little context on the dang Sugar Ray fight.
And Hagler?
I would, yeah, with Duran. Nah, with Duran. Nah,
which one? The first one? Or just the whole situation? Sugar Ray and Duran. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
I think people don't remember the fact that, you know, it wasn't because he was getting tagged that he stopped in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was because he was more so getting embarrassed because he was styling on him, and he wasn't in the shape that needed to be because he had that huge fat camp, so he can get into the fight. So that more so than anything was the real reason why he didn't he didn't want to continue with the fight because he was tired and he was getting like stunted on. He was just showboating and grandstand, and he didn't like that. So
Sticking his chin out there and all that kind of stuff. Remember?
it wasn't from punishment. Like he wasn't getting punished in that
Hey,
fight.
the fight was close, T. Hill. Sugar Ray only had like 1 point, 2 points on it. It was 68-66 on 2 cards and 67-66 with 7 rounds to go. So Duran was well within the fight, you know.
Yeah, and when he stopped, it wasn't because he just was taking punishment. It was like he was getting shoe shined, but it was more so the shuffling and all the other stuff that was going on. And the fact that he just didn't have no stamina. He said so. He was like, "Yo, I ain't gonna be able to endure this, and he ain't gonna go out there and just make me look silly like this. So let me go on and quit," which is never a good thing. I'm not justifying it. But that's the little context to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't because he was just getting his ass beat like a lot of people like to say.
No, he wasn't. It was a good close. It was still close. It's still 7 rounds to go. Still a very winnable fight for Duran, but he like you say, Sugar Ray was starting to style on it, and he was starting to take over too. You know.
Now Sugar Ray is like one thing people don't understand about Sugar Ray. He's a master manipulator in that ring and outside that ring.
Right.
He got Duran. I mean, he got Hagler to fight a fight that he wasn't really supposed to fight against him.
I know. You're 100% right about that.
He catered to the fact that, Hagler is a tremendous boxer. So he was like, yo, people just think that all he is a power puncher. He can win the fight by boxing. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually won the fight by boxing. So, he was planting that seed to get him to not make it a brawl, but more of a boxing session. And, that way I have a better chance. So, yeah, he's smart in and out that ring.
Hagler fought the first 2 rounds orthodox, something he never did, man. He lost both rounds.
Yeah.
What made him do that?
Turn this TV.
But that was all good, man. The 4 Kings. They came along at the right time, right after the Ali and Frazier, all them had just went out. Boxing needed a shot in the arm, and the 4 Kings came right along. They were in between Tyson, Ali, and when Tyson came in, 4 Kings. Right in there.
Agreed, man. I want to make note to this new 4 Kings stuff. Like if there was ever 4 Kings, and I wanna make sure we shout out also that there was a king that was left out of that original 4 Kings. And I know you often make mention of the fact that they left one off, who was very influential in that time too. But the only thing, you said, what's that?
Talking about Benitez?
Oh yeah,
Benitez, right?
Yeah, for sure.
3 of them, remember?
Yeah. And was a tremendous fighter in his own right. Mm-hmm. One of the best at that time.
Yes, he was.
But I'm gonna say that my man Oscar, my man Mosley, my man Trinidad, my man Corte, my man Vargas, my man, who else was in that mix where they was fighting one another?
The Ruelas brothers, remember those 2 brothers? Gabriel and Rafael.
Oh yeah, the Ruelas. But I'm talking about the ones who was like on top of everything, and they were fighting each other.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, these were the ones that when in the early 90s to the mid 90s, they were fighting, and they were fighting each other, and they were providing some heck of a matchups.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they were the 90s. Nice. Them lower weight classes were strong. I'm talking like lightweight, junior lightweight, 140. Yeah. Early 90s. More so than the fighters, the crop fighters we have now that are dubbed the new 4 Kings. And to throw the 5th in there with Shakur, of those 4, the only one who's fought more than one is Ryan Garcia, ironically. That's right. It's Ryan. You're right.
He's fought Devin and he's fought Tank. All he has to do is fight Shakur and fight Tio, and then he would have fought all of them who get tabbed into the Four Kings.
He'd get a lot of credit if he could get one of those in. You know, Tio or Shakur, both of them would be really good. But if you just get Tio or Shakur in, man, 3 of the 4 would be good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Salute,
So, I'll shout out my guy, Bruce Dad.
Oh yeah,
Bruce
Milton
Dad.
McCory. Yeah, Donna Curry and Milton McCory, them some big names back in the 80s, man. Yeah. And also Marlon Starling.
That was my guy right there. I loved me some Marlon Starling.
Yeah. He had that little jump step, remember?
Yeah. Oh, I loved me some Marlon Starling.
Yeah.
I just love me some boxing. I liked him, and believe it or not, I loved me some Marco Carvajal, and I loved me some Mark Too Sharp Johnson.
That's the fight I wanted to see. Too Sharp and Carvajal.
Yeah, man.
They were never in the same. They were always like one division apart. Like
one apart, always.
Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
How you guys doing?
What's up, Define Arnie?
What's up, Define Arnie?
How you fine gentlemen doing? Hey man, I wanted to say that I saw a few things about Mark Too Sharp Johnson, and it looks pretty good, bro. So I'm gonna definitely watch some more, you know. So I appreciate you.
That was your first time watching Mark Too Sharp?
Oh yeah, bro.
Oh man, you was in for a treat, bro. What about my man, the Drunken Master? Have you ever checked his fights out?
Oh yeah, Emmanuel Augustus is his name, right?
Yeah.
I love that guy. I saw his fight with Floyd, and also his fight with Andre Ward. Mickey Ward. I'm sorry, Mickey Ward.
Yeah, I think my man really truly only lost maybe 2 fights. I think he was robbed at a whole. No, Emmanuel Augustus.
Oh yeah.
Robbed man ever, man.
He was robbed out of about 8 fights.
Oh yeah.
You know what, T.O.? I think he turned the judges off with the antics and stuff he did. You know, you think they had something to do with it?
Yes.
They loved it. They loved it when my man what's his name from overseas.
Oh, the English guy, right?
Yeah.
Mickey Ward?
No, not Mickey Ward. What's his name? You know, the brother, Prince Hassim Hamed.
Oh, Nassim Ahmed. Gotcha.
Yeah, they loved him, bro. He did that before Prince Nassim.
That's true.
With shower gel and like shaving cream.
She doesn't
and
hear
made it
me.
work. And made it work, bro. And one thing, he got robbed one time, and Steady Atlas was raising holy hell, bro. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Hey, I used to love him, but he did Kevin Kelly something filthy though. I didn't expect that. I thought that was gonna be a good fight, but man, it wasn't such a good fight. He was the truth. He was legit. But when he got in there against my man when he got in there against Marquez though, Marquez whooped the dog snot out of him.
Oh yeah, that was his last fight. Was it the last one to you?
I think it was the one that let him know it shouldn't be no more.
Yeah. He did him bad.
No.
Real bad. Yeah.
Not in a gift set. Yeah, so we don't have gift sets around this time of year, only during Christmas time. But here would be like the shower gels and things like that.
Oh, I apologize. Let me go.
He used to have those ring walks you find on it. Remember the Prince came in on that flying carpet.
Yeah.
Did you see that one when he came in on the flying carpet?
I don't remember that one.
People didn't know about drones then, but that's probably what that was. Somebody was operating from the back or something, you know, battery operators or something. Because he came right down there to the ring.
Yeah, most likely.
Flying carpet, man. Yeah, I saw that and still couldn't believe it. Over the rope, flip into the ring. He was a showman. Yeah, the Prince.
I gotta see that one.
Yeah, the flying car. Pull it up. I watched it like a couple weeks ago again. Yeah, came in on the flying car. Yeah, that was crazy. Mm-hmm. Bruce Gas says he talked to Marlon Starling recently, but he's not doing too well.
Who?
Marlon Starling, put back from the 80s. Bruce said he talked to him recently. He's not doing too good. Marlon Starling.
I'm sorry, who?
Marlon Starling, coming back from the 80s. He fought in the 80s.
I can't hear you, Cass. I'm sorry.
Oh, Marlon Starling.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Remember him?
Rings a bell, but I don't have him, not yet.
Yeah.
And from the 80s?
Down in there, yeah.
Okay. You say not doing so good?
Around the Four Kings era, so they was all a little overshadowed. You know, everybody was so fascinated with the Four Kings. A lot of fighters didn't get that prop back then, man. You know, a lot of good.
Right.
Like Don Curry and Maurice Blocker, Simon Brown, all of them. Those guys, man. Naming them all. Milt McCrory, yeah. Good fighters.
Also, back then it was easier. To screw you, you know, from a promoter standpoint, you know.
Right. Yeah, it was.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
This way.
I love Bruce Gas. I've seen a couple of interviews. He's really good.
With who?
With Bruce Gas, I saw the interview with Peter McNeely and also with Merciless Ray Mercer too. He's pretty good. I can barely hear you.
What time is it anyway? We got to get ready for Just Do. I didn't. Did you see any most of the show today? You find out he was talking about Washington D.C.
Oh no, I literally. Sorry, maybe I'll replay it. I just saw the panel and I was like, let me just say hi.
Yeah, we're gonna do Marco Antonio Barrera tomorrow for the profile. Yeah.
Another fantastic fight, and involved in some epic wars, man.
I know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man, it was like four fighters of Mexican ilk that just used to just give us fights. Him, Vasquez, Barrera, Marquez, and Morales. Yeah, boy.
Bunch of them. Morales.
Him and Barrera really didn't like. They hated each other. Morales.
They hated each other. Respected their craft, but hated each other. But it's like they was jealous of one another almost. But them boys put on the ring.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I'll say this: Morales, Marquez and Barrera, until recently, they really didn't get along. Like, for real.
Yeah.
And Morales and Barrera got together after their careers, too. I've seen them together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're the best of friends. They do a show together. It's called Un Round Más.
Man, I mean, after a while, you have to sit back and look at what you brought, just the series that they've had, what they brought to the sport.
Right.
Some of the greatest fights of all time. If you look at the best fights of all time, I'm pretty sure one of their fights is there.
Gotta be in there.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
For Morales Barrera, I mean, you can put the first one, you can put the whole trilogy in there, but the first one, oh my goodness, bro.
Yeah. Epic battle.
So yeah, Vasquez, Morales, Barrera, Marquez.
Yes.
Man.
And Marquez with a brother wasn't bad neither, Rafael.
Yeah, Rafael wasn't bad at all either.
Him and
I forgot about him.
Vasquez had the battle, right? Didn't he battle with Vasquez? Israel Vasquez? And
Israel, the late great Israel Vasquez. Yeah,
that's why I keep saying Vasquez. I never neglect to to mention him, that brother was tough. He was tough.
Oh yeah.
He just passed away recently, not too long ago.
Yeah, some tremendous fights, man. That's why when people tell me that slow, flat-footed Mexican stuff, that really burns me, man. Like, yo, you disrespect a lot of great fighters by saying stuff like that.
Yeah, that's I understand why they would say that, but it's wrong because in reality, most of them are not flat-footed, bro. Like it's quite the opposite, actually.
That's just a way to hate on folk, bro. That's it. That's all.
Right.
And usually they use that to hate on something else or someone else. It's never like really targeted at them. It's to take somebody else down, tear somebody else down. That's why I really hate it too, man. It's like, yo, you're not even really truly targeting them. You're just using them as a reason of hate.
That's all.
So that really turns.
Turns in there, man. Wow, he's going way back.
Yeah, man.
The hating is sometimes.
We gotta get ready to get on out.
Hey, God bless, fellas. Always a pleasure. Maybe tomorrow I have more time. Y'all take care.
We will be here. Right, T-Hill?
Appreciate you.
Okay. We ready to get on out of here, T-Hill?
Oh, for sure. I could take us out. I'm sorry. I'm out at the store with my aunt. She don't hear very well, and she don't know this place, so she's over here just moving around. But yeah, shout out to everybody that tuned in. Shout out to Boxing. You looking for hold on for a second. You looking for birthday cards? So thank you for coming in because here we give boxing its just due. Here we talk about what led to things and why things became and why boxing is such a great sport. And you can only find that with the Box Story and Cash Sports Boxing. So you guys tune in Mondays through Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and you guys will get nothing but a sheer lesson. The books will be open, and then the records will be shown, and you will see boxing for the sport that it truly is. Not for the stuff that people say it is, but for the sport that it truly is. So if you've been in the chat, you have not replied, you have not commented, please make sure you comment, and you will get mentioned, you will get recognized, and you will be appreciated. Likewise, for those who like to support in a great way, you have the Cash App. Go on and hit that Cash App. And also, the panel will always be available for anybody to come up there and talk boxing. We just will ask that you keep it respectful, because what these people do is not easy to do. And with that, he is Cash Sports. Salute to the chat. Salute to all that came in here and participated and showed their love. Salute to you who's watching. Tune in, mosey on over to Just Do Boxing, where you can find boxing being once again put on a pedestal and respected for the sport it truly is. You guys have a blessed day, and I'm out.